having conviction in what you sell. Hey, I'm Donnie Bovee, the CEO and founder of Success Champions Networking and author of Endless Stream of Referrals. And this is Growth Mode, a podcast all around growing and scaling your business, where we talk a lot about sales, business development, and business growth. Hanging out with me, as always, is my buddy Kevin Snow, the sales and automation tactician and genius. And on this episode, we're going to talk really deep about why you have to have passion and conviction for what you sell. I got to start this one off because I think everybody if you've been in sales for any given amount of time, you've ended up in a spot where you sold something you didn't give a shit about. And for me, it was commercial printing. I sold it for 7 years, had an amazing run selling it, but I never understood, one, why I couldn't catch one sales guy. He always outsold me. And two, I never understood why I wasn't excited to get up and go to work. And I wasn't, just feeling like, this was the greatest job or career ever. And it's really because at the end of the day, I didn't give a shit about ink on paper. And that's what I sold. Is literally, if you need a business card, brochure, magazine, fucking tech pub, whatever, that being printed on paper and bound up by something, was what I sold. And, I had some amazing accounts and some amazing companies that I worked with and some amazing people. I just didn't give a shit about what it was that I was selling. And I think that's a problem for a lot of people. I think I'm a rare gem that could sell something very well that they didn't care about. But for most people, they can't sell it because they're not passionate about it. But I also want people to understand there's a big difference between passion and conviction. Because some people can get too damn passionate about what they sell too, and then still never sell anything. So, when I launched my company and I was selling my own stuff, sales got so much easier because I really was able to enjoy what I sell, enjoy talking to people about, what I was doing. And I got really passionate about building this business. And I think that made the world just a lot easier. And I think those 7 years of selling commercial printing, I think I was emotionally just freaking drained trying to convince people they needed this stuff versus, enjoying the sales process. Where do you stand with all this, Kevin, on, conviction in what you sell?
I think you have to believe in what you sell, or it's going to come across that you don't. If you don't believe in the value that your product is bringing, if you don't believe in the capacity and capability of your company to provide that service in a good way, you're not going to be excited when you're talking to the client, and you're going to, it's going to come across, you're just going to be blah. It's going to be real. You're not going to have anything behind what you're saying. And you're not going to enthuse the client. The client's going to feel the same way about your product that you do. And you want them to be excited about it. You want them to see opportunity and say, wow, this can do so much for me. But if you're not excited and you don't believe it can do it, they're not going to believe you can do it either.
Yeah, and I you can see right through it. And as you were talking, I go back to the guy that was selling at the RV show. That was so funny that Elizabeth and I walked by, Elizabeth and I watched this guy for 5 or 10 minutes because he kept doing it. There's the price tag of the RV sitting on the outside of this big ass RV show. And he would, wait for people to start walking by. He'd run inside the RV, like flip through some papers, look outside at the sticker on the outside with the price on it and go, that can't be true. And then he'd run back inside and go, nah. And he'd poke his head back out because they mismarked the price. I have to honor this price because it's on the outside of it, but it's way under what it should be. And it was such a scam. And, I think that's what happens to people when they don't really enjoy what they do, is they start scamming people, they start lying, they start, coercing people to do. And, it's those people that give us a bad name. And I don't believe they're all bad people. I think they just found them in a desperate situation where they needed a job and just took the first thing in front of them. Christ knows I've done that, over my career. Hell, it wasn't until I actually started Success Champions that I think I finally chose, a career, if you will, because all the other times I just took the job that was right in front of me, or the job that was offered to me.
So I think a lot of times the having the conviction, the passion behind what you sell is way easier for business owners and entrepreneurs
Agreed.
who
That I
started
agree.
their thing, because you started it. You better have some sort of passion behind
You
what you're
better
doing.
like what you're doing, right?
If you're going to start a company and go out and do something on your own, you better really enjoy what you're going to be doing. But for salespeople, a lot of time you go through the interview and the company is trying to sell you just as much as you're trying to sell them on your ability to sell their stuff. And a lot of times, you find yourself in that place where, all right, so this isn't that hot of a company. The product isn't nearly as cool as they made it sound when we were in the interview and they're doing the dog and pony show for me. So now you have to come up with ways to, to sell it. And, and I'm never going to condone that you should go out and scam your clients just to get the sale, but you have to come up with techniques to fake it till you make it almost.
Well, you got those certain industries that nobody raised their hand and said, I want to do this when I get older, right? Like nobody said I want to sell insurance. Nobody said I want to be a hell, nobody says I want to be a salesperson in elementary school, if we want to be completely honest. But you always find those people that get with those particular companies or those particular industries, and they took the job because they needed a job, and instantly that industry, that thing. I go back to a gal that I knew for many years. Did a lot of networking together, and she was a habitual career jumper. And it was so funny to watch her land at a new company, because all of a sudden that company was the greatest thing in the world, and it was what she always wanted to do with her life, and she had found her home until a year later she was with a new company, and then that was what she wanted to do. And she'd always come up with these really funny stories of how this related back to something she did in her childhood. And and it was your typical industries. I mean, she was a financial advisor at one point. She was selling HR solutions at one point, payroll stuff at one point. So all these typical jobs. And I think, unfortunately, for a lot of people, I think if they would take a step back and go, man, what would I really enjoy selling? Like, what is something that is just fun for selling? Like, I talked to a guy yesterday that's in a drone company for the government. And listening to this guy talk about drones was freaking cool. I mean, I really was like, shit, now I want to go buy a drone. I can't buy his because they're all in the corporate, government sector stuff, and he's into some high profile things. But his passion spilled over onto me so much that I made a couple of cool introductions for him. But you could tell that he was in the Army Special Forces for a number of years, and like a lot of guys, got hurt and got out, and found himself haphazardly in a drone company that he ended up finding himself becoming the CEO of. But it wasn't like he raised his hand a kid and said, I want to do sell drones for a living. But to listen to this guy talk about just a good old country boy, it was a fun conversation. So I think a lot of people should look for those things that they would geek out on and try to sell those.
So how do you find that company or that product that you're passionate about?
I think it's you got to try a lot of things, and sometimes figuring out what you hate is a good way to figure out what you enjoy. But two, I think that most people haven't sat down and explored what their fun side of the journey has been, what things they've enjoyed. I'll go back to a guy I know that went back to go-kart racing because he did it as a kid, and once he got back into the go-kart tracks, he was able to sell his stuff so much better because he got around people he geeked out on. And I think that's a lot of it is, what are your hobbies? What are the things you like to do? And if you don't want to start a business, go sell the things that get you into the stuff you really, really enjoy. Like Kevin, I think you've primarily been in technology sales because you love the tech side of things. And I think for a lot of people, it's going back and just looking at what do you geek out on. Like, for me, I think at one point in my life, if I could have sold video games, I think I would have crushed it because I freaking love playing video games. I would just go play games and put on the headsets and shit and go talk to as many people I knew about new games,
I can see it already. There's going to be a Success Champions video game store and with giant beanbags for dying to play video games in.
Absolutely the beanbags. Absolutely the beanbags. But, I think most people, if they're looking at a career, will go that route, are, they're just taking things that are in front of them. They're so desperate for a job that they just say yes to whatever it is. And, I've got a ton of half-assed hobbies that I enjoy doing. And I say half-assed just because I flat out don't have time to do them. But I love, blacksmithing. I love, the goats and raising them. I love, the farm life and all that. I love playing games, and I think, had I found a sales career in any one of those endeavors, I think it could have been a lot more enjoyable experience than what I went through, in sales in general. Did you ever have anything you didn't enjoy selling?
Yeah. So one of my first sales job was actually a summer job in college. So, college gets done, go find the summer job. So I didn't have to go home and live with the parents. And I sold Allstate Auto Club. Telemarketing.
I didn't know Allstate had Auto Club.
Yeah. Yeah, telemarketing jobs. So, you'd show up for work around 3, you'd call until like 9 o'clock at night because that's when everyone's home and could answer. This was back when you had to have a, hard line. No one had cell phones. So, yeah, that was just painful and horrible. And I absolutely hated it. How I ended up still doing sales after that, I don't know. But, yeah, I didn't like it at all.
Something that just popped in my head is I was really good at bartending, and that's a sales job in itself. I mean, yeah, it's a very easy sales job. All you got to do is be able to pour drinks, and as long as the drink's the right color, most times you're good. I mean, every drink has a different name in every city and town and across the world, and when you're in a big bar, you got a lot of tourists coming through. They're like, hey, can you make a blah, blah, blah? And you're like, remind me, what color is that? They're like, blue. Got it. And you start throwing shit together. But
there's only so many things that make a drink blue.
Right. But even to make that sale work, you've got to be able to talk to people and carry on conversations and have some fun with that. And then you've got to remember people's drinks because you get your regulars come through, and that's where you make your big money. Is they're walking to the bar and you already have their drinks lined up for them and those type of things. So, but you really need to geek out in what you do. Now, you can 100% sell without giving a shit about what you sell. What you sell, it can be done. I think you're just going to slog through it to make it really happen. What's some of the funnest things you've ever sold?
I love the Nextel thing, the walkie-talkie phones. That was probably my favorite sales job, just because it was different and it was fun getting to let people experience a new way to do things. And then there were some really cool features that we were able to do that really helped companies. This is the beginning of apps, and all the apps were business oriented. So we were helping really, change how people did business and get away from the old inefficient ways and actually help them do more with the same amount of stuff. And which is, I think, what really got me, the tech stuff I did before, it was cool. But I think that the ability to use technology to actually do business better is really what kind of sold me on the being in the tech world and doing that for everything. So that was totally my favorite sales job.
I think that's
I had a really cool sales manager and sales team. You know, the fact that we'd go out as a team and party and drink for, you know, on a like weekly basis with our manager was pretty awesome. And, you know, so it was a good environment and a really great product. So I got lucky with best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's a rarity. That's an extreme rarity, I think. You know, but I love the fact that you had a career that you enjoyed so much that it pushed you into a further career, you know, in the technology side of things. I think that's some of it, you know, some of that exploring and figuring things out is finding something you enjoy and then, you know, going all in on that thing. I don't think a lot of people look at it that perspective. They go get a job, they can't stand it, so they can't sell it, and you know they ride it until they're no longer working at that company because they're fired, let go, and then they end up in another shitty job they don't care about because they're just not looking at it from the perspective. Mark Cuban had a great path when it came to, you know, learning things. You know, he didn't know computers, so he went and got a computer tech job. He didn't know sales, so he got a sales job. You know, so all his career was built on him learning a skill that would move him further. And I just wish more people would do those type of things to enhance their abilities overall.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just bouncing around because they have no clue what they really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything is just kind of, well, this tied me over until I find, you know, my calling. But they're not like you said, they're not actively looking for it. They're not trying to figure out what they're passionate about and then finding roles that can fit into that, or like being the entrepreneur and building one that achieves what you want to be able to do with your life. So, you know, if you hate what you sell, it's kind of your fault.
It's 100% your fault.
Yeah, I was gonna be nice and try not to get a ton of emails this week. But yeah, you know, if you don't like what you sell, it's your fault. Figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that, and you know, but I also think with conviction, you can tip the scale too far.
Yes,
you know, because we've all been around those people that are so passionate about what they sell and what they do that you're like, dude, just get the fuck away from me. Shut up. You know, even if I wanted to buy what you had, you won't shut up long enough for me to be interested in your product and service.
Even if I wanted to buy what you had, I wouldn't buy it from you.
Right. You know, and it's because they forget the duality, the commonality, the back and forth of a conversation. They just want to beat you over the head with it, and hoping. I always wonder if they're trying to do it like it's the UFC and they're trying to just get you to tap out. All right, fuck it, I'll pay it just so you'll shut the fuck up. You know, it's part of the process. You know.
So this ties into our weekly question this week. For those of you that are new to the show, every week we do a listener question, usually from one of our members of SCN chapter around the country. This week, the question comes from S.A. Grant. He is the education chair of the Atlanta Wolfpack chapter, and he is the host of the Boss I'm Caged podcast. And his question is, there is a thin line between being passionate and flying blinded by emotion. Where should a business owner draw the line?
I think the first place somebody has to look is their revenue. And one, if you're not selling, it's either you hate what you do or you're too passionate about what you do and you won't shut the fuck up. You know, there. But I think I don't want to tell people to turn their passion into their career. I like the idea of getting passionate about the career, mainly because I've seen too many people create a business about something they absolutely love and then they no longer love the thing. So I think there's an interesting play, you know, there. But I also think that you've got to find passion, with regards to what you're selling, or you won't be able to sell it at all. It's a fun question.
Yeah, so I think as business owners, especially if you're going into something that you're already passionate about and you have some energy behind, you need to, almost step back from that energy and understand that, hey, you know what, I want everyone to do this thing. I want everyone to use this product. I want everyone to change their life for the better by doing this thing. But you still have to be able to have the emotional maturity to be told no, and right, to have an adult conversation. It's like, some of these salespeople who are blinded by their emotion and they're just so passionate about what they do are like the 4-year-old that just got the greatest toy ever, and needs to show it to you and won't shut up and is just bothering you, and here, play with this, you gotta show this, and does this, and is completely oblivious to all the surroundings of what else is going on in the room.
Are you a mean uncle, Kevin?
No, I am. Uncle. I am an awesome. I am the favorite uncle because I give the best gifts. So, I give the.
So you give the gifts, and then they won't shut up about them. Got it.
Yep, that is my job. And for a while I was the uncle. It's like, what is the loudest toy I can get for my sister's kids?
I did that. I know we're totally derailing the end of this, but when my brother had his kids, I literally would go to the toy store and I'd like, what is the loudest, craziest thing? And one year I bought this see-through drum that had tambourines, marachas, big old gongs, all kinds of things, cowbells. And that's what they opened on Christmas morning. The kids went nuts, running through the house playing all these toys and stuff. It was awesome.
Yep. I need stuff that makes noise, or otherwise it's not a good toy. If it is quiet, it is not a toy. But no, for people, you got to figure out where that line is, where you're really still excited, but you're letting the other person still converse with you and have their opinion and be able to just, talk about it. And I think with a lot of people, especially the people who are bouncing between all the different MLMs, like, oh, this week I'm selling this thing, they're all in, and you can make $1 million, and it comes across cultish.
Yeah, one of the gal told me the other day, she goes, I can help you with whatever you want. I can help you travel. If you need candles for your house, I can help you with that. I've got lotions. I've got shampoo. I got coffee if you need that. And I'm like, are you fucking Walgreens or Walmart? I was a little confused by what she was.
Yep, exactly.
Action for the week is, find something to be passionate about, whether it's you go sell something you're passionate about, or find a way to find passion in what you do, so you can build that conviction up that you're selling the right thing to the right people at the right time. And it will help you go a lot further in business. So as always, guys, we appreciate and love the emails and the messages we get. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for being a part of the Success Champions family, man. We really embrace it and enjoy having you guys around. Do us a favor, make sure you are subscribed, you share this out with somebody, and just tell one person, to tune into the show. That would mean everything to us. Till next time, love you, mean it. See you, bye.